Hi everyone, my name is Cameron, and I wanted to take the opportunity today on Bell Let's Talk to talk about my own story with mental health and my experiences with that. Um, and I wanted to use it as an opportunity to update the story that I had submitted to the storyteller back in 2015. Because at that point, I was, I guess, third year Ryerson student in English. Just wrapping up, my third year there. Um, and it is now 2019, and a lot has happened since then. So I took some time to sort of digest and reread the story that I had submitted for that, and I wanted to just reflect on some of the themes and um, some of my insights that I had then, and sort of reflect on if they're still relevant today, and sort of bring you up to date with what has happened since then. So if you're unfamiliar with that post, I'm going to trust that the people over at the Storyteller will be posting maybe a link or something to the story. You can give it a read. It's a quick read. But essentially, the gist of that story is giving a bit of a narrative to my experience with anxiety and depression, especially as a young child. I had started having bouts of anxiety when I was about 8 years old or so, and when I was about 10, um, it had sort of escalated into something that was debilitating, essentially, and I couldn't go to school. And um, I don't want to talk about this part too much, as I've sort of discussed this before. But essentially, a lot of what I had mentioned in the story was one, through modes of creativity and through writing and through music. Um, I felt that that was a way for me to cope, and it was a cathartic method for me, in which I was able to translate my inner turmoil, I guess you could say, into something that was creative, and I was able to connect it into something, um, positive, I suppose. And then the other message, which I think still feel quite is still quite relevant, is it's okay not to be okay. It's a simple message, but it's something I want to sort of come back to later on in something that I want to sort of nuance a little bit in my little update. So, anyways, since 2015, a lot has changed. I went to grad school, and that is really when things started to sort of change from the trajectory that I had sort of carved out in this narrative that I posted in the Storyteller. When I first started grad school, it was 2016, September 2016, and I was starting at a whole new school, um, and it was a lot more. It was a whole different environment that I was not used to. Um, I didn't really know too many people going into the program. I was going into the Masters of English, um, and it was just a whole other level of English literature in languages that I was not mentally prepared for. Um, I don't think, and not sort of. I sort of jumped right from my undergrad right into this graduate studies, and I was sort of on this mindset of like, okay, this is my trajectory. I'm going to go to grad school, and then I'm going to go right into a PhD, and then I'm going to be the super professor that takes over the world. This is sort of my narrative. Um, but things weren't that simple. Um, I found myself coming back into these same emotions that I remember as a kid. Um, and when I would try to utilize the tools I had gained, um, I just was not able to. It was not translating. Writing wasn't helping. Music wasn't helping. Um, Distractions weren't helping. I had schoolwork, and so I distracted myself, and I tried to do schoolwork, and but then I couldn't because I couldn't concentrate because of anxiety, etc. And I just could not function properly, even with some of the tools that I had sort of gained when I was younger. And so, essentially, what I did is I was like, okay, this is too much. My family and I decided this is too much. I need to, maybe just take a year. I need to take a year and sort of refocus, come back into myself, and find a new way of coping. So I went to see my psychologist, and after discussing different possibilities, we both came to the decision that maybe I should try medication, which was something as when I was younger, I know my parents were particularly hesitant about as a developing child, but at this point, grown adult, I just needed something that could help me get through the day, because the way things were, it was just not a healthy situation. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I wouldn't be able to make food for myself. I would, try to. It would be an accomplishment if I could go outside, essentially, at that point. So what I did is I took some time away from my studies, and I've just focused on myself. I worked. I was still able to work part time. Unfortunately, I had some savings that I could rely on for a little bit until I was able to support myself a little bit more. Eventually, a few months later, I was able to pick up another part-time job, extend my hours at my research position, and by September 2017, I was like, okay, let's do this. And these are a few of the things that helped me get through that year, and I guess some of the lessons I learned from my struggles during that year. The first thing being, like I said, I wanted to emphasize that message of it's okay not to be okay. I guess to sort of add on to that message from my previous post in 2015, it's okay also to it's okay to struggle. It's okay to be in that moment of depression and anxiety, and just sort of live in that moment and know that this isn't forever. This isn't something that's. I think that was part of the issue. Was okay. I know that's not. It's okay to not be okay, but it feels like this is gonna last forever. I think that was a part of my issue. And I think it's just having a mindful understanding of, yeah, it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to live in that not okayness. It's okay to embrace that, and not just to be okay with it. Sometimes being in that mode of anxiety and stress and depression is something that can percolate and cultivate into something, it's a part of my journey, and it's a part of my experience. Not to glamorize this at all, but it's just something that you need to be mindful of and inhabit. And for me, that sort of lesson of mindfulness and being able to understand that negativity and anxiety and depression, these are a part of a larger plethora of emotions and a part of this full spectrum of the human experience, and just sort of grappling with that sort of philosophical lesson of it, I guess, was something I really cultivated over that year. Reading this past post that I made, I had mentioned creativity, writing, music. These were things that were cathartic. But during this time, it was hard. I couldn't write, and I couldn't do music because I was in this emotional rut. Um, and I think part of that comes back to what I was just sort of saying is it's okay to be in a space where you don't create, that you're not always productive. In the sort of, modernity sense of the word of productive, laziness and sort of being lethargic and being just in a moment can be just as um, productive as working out or going to work, being creative. We all need those moments to recharge, and being okay with having those moments is what sort of helped me over that year. I had been on this trajectory, this very career-oriented trajectory of like, okay, undergrad, grad school, PhD. This is what I'm doing. That I had forgotten. I think I'd forgotten to just relax, take a breather, and I've come to realize that these moments of breathing, of rest, of silence, of introspection, whatever you want to call it, they're so important to your own personal productivity, even if it doesn't feel like on the larger scale of things. It really does help. Since then, I've actually been slowly taking myself off medication. I've been getting back into creative activities. I finished my master's, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that I took that time for myself to reflect on my own personal what I really wanted to get out of life, really, and I think what I've discovered, this sort of sense of living with and in anxiety, and not fearing it, and not being afraid to be in that space, and being able to recognize that space, has been so beneficial, even if it doesn't feel like that at the time. And I know, especially during the winter, it's a tough time for a lot of people. It's a tough time for me. The first few weeks of this January have just been, the first week going back to work, I was like, you know what, I'm going to work, and then I'm done. Like, I'm done for the day, because I get in this sort of mental space during this time where I can't. I get in this rut where I just start ruminating, and I'm getting this negative space, but I've come to recognize, it's like, okay, this time of year, it's not good for me. I'm not going to overwhelm myself with too many tasks, too many to-do lists, with too many things that I need to accomplish. I'm not going to overload myself like I have, and just try to push and keep trekking through it. And I'm just going to live in this space of, liminality, I suppose, a space of uncertainty, and embrace that. And doing that's tough. I'm not gonna lie, it's tough to embrace that anxiety and to embrace your own insecurities and your uncertainties. It's certainly not easy, and I think this is going to be a lifetime thing for myself. But all in all, I'm excited to invest my time into that, and I'm excited to invest in myself by slowly understanding my own anxieties, my own uncertainties, and by doing so, I think I could be a better person for myself and for other people around me. This sort of turned into a very long-winded rant, but I hope you get something out of this. Storyteller folk, feel free to cut this up however you feel necessary. thanks so much for listening. If you're still listening, that's much appreciated. I hope you get something out of this ramble. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, I guess, feel free to, again, contact with the Storyteller people, and they can get you in contact with me, and we can talk mental health, we could talk whatever. Yeah, thanks so much. Have a good day. And thanks so much to the Storyteller, of course, for offering such a wonderful platform for discussing these taboo topics that people don't necessarily discuss. Alright, thanks.